You know, they say you're getting old. You know you're getting old when you can't find your favorite cookie. Now, my favorite cookie was Pinwheels. They stopped making them, and I guess they got a lot of complaints, a lot of letters, and they started making them again. I had switched to Malamar. So anyway, I had told someone, I said, "Yeah, you know you're getting old when they do away with your favorite cookie." And I told her the whole story. And this woman was buying me Malamars, and then all of a sudden I noticed there was Pinwheels came back. And online, people say they don't taste as good. They do taste as good as they used to. Anyway, today I went over to Walmart and I looked last night. I wanted to buy a toilet bowl cleaner that was a little less work for me because the water has a lot of minerals in the water here. Also, I had a prostate operation, so I pee more often, and I don't always flush right away. So I get really bad scaling in the toilet bowl. So I go over and I'm looking. I think I can't even remember Zep ZEP. I seen it on the website. I seen it online, and I went over to Walmart and I couldn't find it. And I went down the back by the auto section and in the toilet bowl repair section. I found what I wanted, but it was the big bottle. They did have it. But I was talking to the guy, and I was just saying, when you get older, things, so many things change, and you got to keep adapting. It's really annoying. But anyway, he looked it up for me, and the thing he looked it up on didn't show it, and I thought it was a black bottle. The black bottle is the industrial strength. I'm hoping to get that and try that out. Well, anyway, so as I'm walking around the store, I'm looking at other things. You know, the televisions now through the air. They've gone to a new system. You can buy the new system. Well, anyway, that's a change. And then I see this aisle. This woman's loading up these little plastic um, containers, and I don't know what they are. And I start talking to her, and it turns out it's like wax, and you put it into this machine, and it melts it, and it's like burning a candle. The candles are on the other side of the aisle. So I got talking to her, and there's so many different fragrances. It's a nightmare. It's a woman's thing. I'm looking at this going, man, I'm too simple. Well, anyway, now it hits me. Years ago, I bought a bunch of Irish Spring. It was on sale. I bought a bunch of it, and I had it in the closet. And then lately, I realized that I was out of soap. So I'm going up and down, and there was an Hispanic woman there, and I'm talking to her. I'm going up and down, and I'm trying to say soap, and she didn't get the translation. And I'm doing I'm washing motion and all that. So finally, she sets her point of sale thing up. I'll call it a point of sale, and she has me talk to it. And then told her what aisle, and she brings me up to aisle 15, and she says it's in there. And I said Irish Spring soap. And I'm going up and down the aisle, and I know it's there, and I'm looking. I'm like, you know what? Everybody's washing with liquid soap now. So I'm thinking, I know it's on the aisle. I look down, and there's only a couple of these boxes. See, I used to buy Irish Spring when it first came out. It used to come in a little box. And then they made you buy 4 or 8. This is a package of 4. That's all they had. But one time I went to buy it, and I was forced to buy 8 or 12, whatever it was, and it was plenty. And when I get really dirty hands or from working on a project, I wash my hands in the kitchen sink, and I have a scrub brush, and I use Dawn. So I don't use a lot of soap, except for like a shower. So it's just so funny. It's like, so anyway, I get my soap, and I go back, and I see the guy. I'm telling him, yeah, I said, down the back. I said, they got the toilet bowl cleaner. It's a big jug, a gallon jug of this stuff. And I said, they don't have the smaller bottles. They're out. And I got talking to him, and I asked him, I said, do you use soap, a bar of soap? Or he says he uses the liquid. And see, me using the liquid, I don't know. It just, I couldn't get used to it. So anyway, I said to him, you do know what a bar of soap is? He says, yeah, when he was little, that's what he used, was a bar. I'm like, I'm getting so freaking old that everybody's doing everything differently than me. And, I'm walking down and I see an aisle, and this woman's putting these little tiny plastic things. And when you turn it over, it looks like beeswax in it. And I'm like, do you put that with it? She says, no, there's this machine. I'm like, Oh, we don't burn a candle anymore. You have this machine, you put the wax thing into it, and the amount of wax they give you for what you pay is it's a ripoff. It's a woman thing. Anyway, I saw that, and I started doing other aisles just to see what new stuff come out. I saw the new televisions they're there, the new system, and it's funny how cheap a television is getting. Because when it goes bad, you just throw it away. You don't get it fixed anymore. And I'm walking around, I'm like, we have too much. And that's what a woman told me at the yard sale. She was a Mennonite. She's in full Mennonite garb. She was selling plants. And we were talking about happiness. And she says, the problem now is people have too much. And they're not thankful for what they have. She's going the religious way. And I look at it a different way. We've peaked. Big screen televisions, they're not selling as well because everybody has one now. The phones aren't turning over as fast as they were because people really don't have the money. But it was so funny, every so often when you're getting older, every so often you notice a bunch of things change, and you're standing there and see what I do. I get someone to ask what I'm looking for. If they don't have it, I look at what the product that's close to it, and I realize, all right, they made a change. It's like when the pinwheels disappeared. I was still eating pinwheels when they took them off the shelf. And never thinking that there would be so many people complaining that they start making pinwheels again. What I switched to was Mallomars. It's a chocolate, it's marshmallow cookie, a cookie with marshmallow on top with a chocolate covering. That's what a pinwheel is. And they're very addictive. I buy a package once a week. And they did away with them on me. And then I had seen this program, this comedian, he says, when you're old, when they do away with your favorite cookie. And I've had this conversation with people like in the dollar store. And the woman, I met her yesterday, and I told her, and she interrupted me, but what she said to me was, I ate these as a kid. They're really good. They're chicken cookies, chicken crackers. So I'm looking at them. I'm thinking to myself, it's time to try something different. And I took them home and I opened up and I put one in my mouth and I'm like, that woman's a heavy smoker. It's real salty and spicy. It doesn't taste like chicken. So I went back to the dollar store. This is months ago. I met her the first time. I went back to the dollar store and I was telling the girl in there, she says, yeah, that's a cracker that heavy smokers eat. And I said, that's the type of seasoning my mother would do and the food. And I put it in my mouth and I'm like, oh. So yesterday she was there, the woman, I said, so I have this joke that I was telling people about the chicken cookies or chicken crackers. People say if you eat a snake, you go to Paris Island, you eat a snake, and someone says it tastes like chicken. And all these different things, if you eat, it tastes like chicken, it tastes like chicken. And then I said, I got to tell this woman the joke, and then say, you know what doesn't taste like chicken? Those chicken cookies or crackers or whatever they are. And she kept interrupting me. I said, I'm actually telling you a joke. And then she finally went, ha, ha, ha. But I said, you're a heavy smoker. She says, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, that cookie is meant for people that, I didn't say don't have no taste buds, but it's a very strong cookie. And it's got a nice little bag it comes in. It's got a nice chicken on it. And I'm like, I want to try something. Oh, without a mistake. I ate one. And then the rest of the day I was burping it up. It just didn't sit right with me. I threw the package out. But things change. I understand that. But I bought so many bars of Irish Spring the last time because that's all I had. That was my choice was 12 bars, whatever it was. I bought it, and I've been using them. And then I said to myself, next time I'm out, I better get Irish Spring. Now, when I bought those bars of soap, that was in the middle of the aisle. It was just below eye level for me. I'm tall. They're now at the very bottom, and you have to buy, the minimum you can buy is 4 in a box, soap bars. You can't, originally, you could buy 1 bar of soap in a box, Irish Spring, and that's all gone. It's just so funny. As you're walking along, you're going, what else are they going to do away with? Now, I noticed that the other day I was at the Walmart, and I come in, and there was a big section of Peeps. And the Peeps are marshmallow candy. They're marshmallow. You put them in your Easter basket. And to break the seasons, when I was a kid, There were turkey. There were turkey peeps. There were Christmas tree peeps. There was Easter bunny and peeps, and there might have been one more. Yeah, pumpkins for Halloween. Pumpkin peeps. Anyway, I used to mark the seasons by what peeps were in the store. All right, and yeah, you had your peep. You had your first of all, I think they didn't have heart, but I don't think they had heart peeps for Valentine's Day. They might have though. But anyway, they don't make any of that anymore. Just the peeps themselves, the little chicks. And I came in. There was a big square pallet of these things, and I grabbed one. And then today I went back looking for the Irish Spring, and I saw the same pallet, and only one was missing. So I grabbed another one, another package. But what I eat and what I like, modern people don't like. You know, it's the past. But it was just so funny. I saw that big pallet of peeps, and only one was missing, and that was for me from yesterday. It's just so funny as you walk along and you're paying attention. Someone says, "Oh, you don't put." The one friend of mine had stick-ups on the wall to make his house smell good because he paid a woman to come clean his house, and in the interim, for all the types of foods he cooked, it was really bad. The fish smell and all that. Well, he put these stick-ups in. And fish is very hard to get out. I don't cook fish. Anyway, so he had this favorite plugins, a certain scent, a certain type unit, and he was going crazy. He finally found a store that had some left over, and he was able to get it. But he's like, I'm going to get that scent and that mechanism because he couldn't make the jump to something else because that's the scent he liked. And he says, when you plug it in, people coming into the house can smell it, but he can't smell it anymore because he's been around it so long. So if he puts a new type of scent, he's going to keep smelling it. But it was funny stuff. Everybody goes through this, and it's just funny. You know, if you have your favorite, even with a car, your favorite oil, and you go to the store one time, and I used to use Quaker State, which it wasn't synthetic. This is way back. And then later on, I think everybody was using STP or Valvoline or whatever. I switched over because I had a car that needed 530 weight or something like that. It was something ridiculous, and only one brand came out with it first. And I switched to that brand, and I was buying that. But I was always a Quaker State guy. And it's funny, you know, you don't pay attention to what cookies are. You just go there and you're like, gee, they don't have that candy bar anymore. And you're walking around, it ain't there anymore. And if you go look and you see articles about people on the internet, they don't make it. Yeah, they don't make it. That company merged with so and so, and they don't make it anymore. The one story I read, which is really cool, is it Goldwing? No. So there's a pencil, and the pencil is made out of clay, black stuff, and something else. And it's a famous pencil. And it's the eraser on the back is square. And clay? What the hell? Now I'm going to forget. See, whenever I'm on camera, I can't really remember. It's too much pressure. But anyway, this company realized that they weren't making the pencils. This other company wasn't making the pencils anymore. So they reformulated, and they double and triple checked to make sure they got the pencils right. It's something wing, black wing. Anyway, I saw that, and I never heard of one of those pencils. But because it has clay and something in the wax and clay and black stuff to make up the lead, which pencils aren't really lead, they're carbon. But anyway, go look at the video on it. It's pretty good. Or there's a story about it. I think it was a video, and they show you the hardest part was making the eraser, the square eraser that goes on the back of the pencil, and that's so it don't roll. They figured out, the company that made these pencils figured everything. Now, the famous place that you would see it is in the movie Jaws. The guy, the oceanographic guy, well, the biology guy that comes on the boat with him. at one scene he's got it in the mouth, and you can see it clearly that it's that type of pencil. But people that draw and write, they like that pencil. And they were up to $38 each on eBay. Now that they've redone them, and the people say they're just as good, I think that each pencil is like $5 now. But there are things in life where you go buy it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. Now my grandmother had a hearing aid, and she would buy this certain brand of batteries, and the battery was a carbon zinc battery, and she'd put it on, and she'd have the hearing aid on. When somebody would come near her, she would turn it up or turn it on, and she'd get several weeks out of a battery. Now, when we started buying her mercury cells, she wasn't getting the time. Mercury cell is it cuts off. In other words, it doesn't, when it goes bad, if on a regular battery, a carbon zinc, you turn it off, the radio, or whatever you use, and turn it back on, you get a little bit more out of the battery until it goes off. So my grandmother would have the battery in her hearing aid, and it would be off. And then somebody would come over, she'd turn it on. So she'd get more life out of it, where when I bought her a bunch of the mercury cell ones, Duracell, Mallory, I think they were Mallory, and she was telling me, and then my mother thought she was crazy, and then I started thinking, yeah, there's a difference in the battery. A carbon cell, it'll go dead, but if you shut it off for a while, the acid starts eating inside, it starts generating electricity again, you turn it on. With a zinc cell, it drops off. That's a zinc cell. The mercury cell, it just drops off. So I understand what my grandmother said, but my grandmother had me riding everywhere to get that battery. And then finally, I found a place. The guy says, I'm not ordering these anymore. And I told him the whole story. He goes, yeah. He goes, if you only put the hearing aid on once in a while, you get more time out of this battery, and it's cheaper too. So what I did was, I started buying batteries for my grandmother for her birthday, for Christmas and Easter, whatever. And other people in the family started copying the same idea. And then one of them had the gall to tell me that was her idea. She figured out that my grandmother needed batteries, and instead of buying her something she didn't use, and I'm like, okay, if all you people are buying her batteries, I don't have to anymore. And all of a sudden, the price of batteries doubled, and they all dropped on it. My poor grandmother was back to not having any batteries, and I went and bought more, and I gave them to her. I told her, I said, you're gonna have to start. You got Medicare, Medicaid, whatever she had. I said, you got to buy your own batteries. But that was another nightmare, driving around. And I had the brand written down, and I went to all the different drugstores. And in those days, you wouldn't call a drugstore up and ask them if they had a certain battery. You just didn't. You'd call up to see if they took certain doctors' prescriptions. You didn't call around and bother people over if they carry certain items in the pharmacy. So I'd get in my car and I'd drive around, and I'd find a guy, a pharmacist, that knew that the battery would last longer under certain circumstances. And there's a case where my grandmother had her batteries changed. In other words, we don't make them anymore. And they were just starting to get rechargeable batteries. And my grandmother was trying to explain to me, the doctor wanted her to bring the batteries back once every 2 weeks. You buy so many batteries that are rechargeable, and he would charge them for you and then charge you money. And I didn't get involved. My grandma I didn't get involved. I went through the driving around for her and all that, and she had 4 sons. They didn't do nothing for her. And mother, anyway, and my grandma never remembered my first name too. That's what was really annoying. Oh God, some of the stuff I've gone through. But in any case, I just looked on the internet, and somebody actually said, does anybody use bars of soap anymore? And there was a couple people said during the pandemic that they couldn't get the liquid soap anymore, and they said that the bars of soap, when they use it, feels cleaner, and the tub is not as slippery. I was reading, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not. I do have a group of people that still want to use a bar of soap, but I grew up with a bar of soap. You know what I mean? It's just weird. You're spraying it out, and then if you have the liquid soap in a container, how do you know when it's going to run out? See, when you're taking a shower, you look at your bar of soap, you know it's dwindling, and when you get out, you go get another one, put it in there, so the next time that, the soap gets so small it breaks up into little pieces. But anyway, I realized most people now are using liquid soap, and that's what I went through. But I had two products I was looking for, and that one was a Zep acid toilet bowl cleaner, and there's also a black bottle, and it's a little bit more stronger, and that's what I need because I got to really cut through. I'm doing my spring cleaning. That's what's going on here. I have this giant beard, and I'm going to shave that off, and I'm not going to hide in radios. I told you, if you watch the politics, what's going on in the country, uh, I hide from that by working on the radio every day. I think about the radio. I work on the radio. I don't want to know. So I do look at the news. I do stuff on the internet, but there's no happiness for me. I don't. Nobody's doing anything I'm interested in anymore. The radios are in the past. I wish I could send one back through time for myself because I had this Philco thing, and friends of mine had a real radio, and I didn't. A shortwave radio, ham equipment. I never could afford anything that was extraordinary. I got a lot of things used or out of the garbage and stuff like that when I was growing up. I had two bicycles growing up. One, the small one, then you outgrow it and they give you the bigger one. And when that's gone, that's gone. These kids here, they leave their bicycle out in the rain, it gets stolen. The parents just buy them another one. And they don't bicycle ride like I used to. I used to go run errands and use the bicycle. It's everything's changing. You know, everybody thinks about the past. And was it better? I don't know. Certain things were better. One thing I noticed that was better was you had like 5 television stations. I was in New York, near New York City. There were 5 stations you were on all the time. And when you're walking to school or at work, everybody basically saw the program you were talking about. So at break time, you'd be talking about, years ago, it would be Archie Bunker or whatever, way, way back. Now it's like, you got like 70 channels or something like that. And you got streaming and all these different things. And, the last program I remember talking to anybody about was Seinfeld. They called it a water cooler program. And the next day everybody at the water cooler was talking about the episode. And then I went on to, you had Friends, Seinfeld, and then The Big Bang Theory came along. How I Met Your Mother. I was watching those, and little by little, they finished up. And then Young Sheldon. I watched some of those episodes, but I don't have a favorite TV show anymore. That's the other thing that's messing me up. Years ago, you have your once a week, twice a week, whatever your favorite shows were, you'd be waiting for it. And then you get a period of time there were reruns. So if you miss one, you can get to see it again. But everything's changing. But it's so funny. I'm walking on this aisle and I'm looking for soap, bars of soap, the way it used to be. And down at the very bottom, there's a couple boxes of Irish Spring. I think there might have been Zest or Dove. I'm like, that's it in Walmart, and there's row after row after row of liquid soap. And I'm like, and they're going to stick it to you because it's in a container. The whole thing's, I won't say it's a scam, but I guess some people like liquid soap. I think that's it. All right, that's it.